Chapter 9. How to Fail Smarter. Corfu, Greece, July 7th, 2016. I had my tux on and I thought it looked great. Bright blue was the right choice. I did a quick check to make sure nothing was stuck in my teeth and wiped the sweat from my brow. Greece in July equals hot. Everything was in order, and in a few minutes I would board the pirate ship, yes, I said pirate ship, that would take me to an ancient church on a tiny island where I would marry Amelia in front of all our friends and family, and the world, eventually, as Bravo was filming it. Planning a wedding for 150 people on a Greek island was not without its challenges. So when my phone started ringing incessantly, I braced myself for a wedding-related disaster. It could have been anything. The priest was kidnapped. The church had blown up. The extreme heat had caused the guests to break out into a brawl. Or we had offended the god Poseidon and he had hurled our wedding cake into the Ionian Sea. I would have preferred it if any of the above had happened. At least it would have made a really good story, rather than what I was about to face. Let's rewind the story a bit to my history with Gemma Markelson. New York City, June 15th, 2016. I had been working with Gemma for 4 years. I had been using all the 3 F's of follow-up, I can promise you. I'd show her an apartment, she'd fall in love, get close to buying it, change her mind, and decide to just keep renting. She was a very loyal client, so I never even thought about giving up on her, but she was very picky and she changed her mind a lot. 1 month, she would only want to see apartments with floor-to-ceiling windows and views of the Hudson River. The next month, she wanted the same thing, but swap out the Hudson River view with the Empire State Building. Then came the infatuation with open kitchens, followed by a flirtation with the Flatiron Loft. There was also the brief phase of only ground floor units because it will be easier for my band to practice. What? I had no idea she was in a band. This back and forth with Gemma had been going on and off for a long time. Then, in 2016, about a month before I was going to Greece to get married to the love of my life, I got a great listing on 12th Street. I knew I had the perfect buyer for it. Gemma. I called her the second I knew I had the listing. She was excited to hear about the exposed brick, the high ceilings, the big master bedroom with an ensuite bathroom, and the open layout. It didn't have a view of either a river or a landmark building, but it was well priced and had a huge home office that she could convert to a screening room or a recording studio. When she walked through the door, I noticed that she blushed and smiled. This had never happened before. It was perfect. Gemma had found her home. I'd planned to list the apartment for $5 million, but hadn't even put it on the market yet, so I had to make a deal between Gemma and the seller. Enter Gemma's mother. Gemma found an apartment! Great! Let's offer $4 million, cash, closing anytime, wonderful. Actually, not wonderful. At this point in the deal, the part where the apartment isn't on the market yet, every seller says the exact same thing. They want to offer what? The apartment isn't even on the market yet. And really, that offer is so low, it's insulting. You haven't even done any work at all. Let's put it on the market and sit back while countless above-asking offers roll in. Find me a Russian billionaire. To which the buyer always responds, why would I increase my offer? It's not even on the market yet. Why would I negotiate against myself? Screw that guy. Tell him to take it or leave it. Good luck finding a Russian billionaire to overpay. And I'm in the middle, like a little kid stuck between mom and dad, trying to decide the best way to get them to see eye to eye. Sirhan's secret number 19. Salespeople often find themselves in the middle of situations that feel impossible. But there's always a solution. Every deal is a deal if you can figure out how to bridge the gap. My seller and buyer were $1 million apart, which may seem like a lot, but to me, it was just a gap I needed to close. I've learned that this is a crucial moment in every sale. It's in the messy middle, full-on stage 3, fear. This is where most deals are usually made or lost. The truth was, based on the condition of the apartment and the most recent comparable sales, $5 million was too high and $4 million was too low. But who cares about facts when you're an oversensitive buyer or seller anyway, right? This meant I had to find a mutually agreeable number for both clients. I had to bridge the gap or risk all of us tumbling into the pit of dead deals. I went to work convincing each party they should make an effort to see if we could reach an agreement. My number one rule at the beginning of any negotiation is to always counter. Clients so often feel there is no point in doing so. They'll say, "We're too far apart, there's no point." But I've seen time and time again how coaxing two parties to make counters can result in a mutually beneficial transaction where both sides feel they got a good deal, and the broker is happy because he got the sale done. But bridging the gap isn't as simple as coming down or coming up in price. You have to play to the fears. Remember how we discussed having walls, and the wall being our motivation to succeed? Buyers and sellers have the same thing. The seller's biggest wall is a future in which they have not sold. The buyer's biggest wall is a future in which they have not bought. Seems simple, right? I play to those fears in every negotiation. With my seller on 12th Street, I reminded him that the risk of not countering was going on the market and not selling at all. Was not selling at all worth not even engaging with this excited early buyer? The seller listened to my argument and agreed to reduce the price by $250,000 for a quick sale. Yes. I reminded my buyer this was an off-market deal. She was getting in early and, P.S., her daughter had been searching for an apartment for 4 years. Wouldn't she like to see her happily settled? She agreed to come up $250,000 for a quick sale. Just like that, the million-mile distance was slashed in half. I know I'm talking about big numbers here, but what you should understand is that I'm making the gap relative. Whether you're trying to close $1 million gap or a $10 one, break it down. I basically asked each side to come up, relatively speaking, $2.50. That doesn't sound nearly as bad as bridging $1 million gap, now does it? We were getting somewhere. Except we weren't there yet. No one wanted to budge an inch further, and no one was ready to agree to the deal either. The seller was thinking, I just came down $250,000 on a place that's not even on the market yet. While the buyer was thinking, you guessed it, I just went up $250,000 on a place that's not even on the market yet. I know this seems like an outrageous amount of money, but when the price tag is this high, another $100,000 or so is like caulk in a leaky tub. It's there to patch things together. We had come so far, and I knew we could get to the finish line. That's when I asked the buyer and seller to split the difference. Meet halfway is probably the nicest sounding way of getting a deal done in the history of the negotiation world. Both sides feel good, and both sides feel like the other side gave an equal share. They both agreed to come up and down so that the selling price was $4.5 million. Deal! The sellers could move to the house they bought in Connecticut, and Gemma would have her screening/band/hamster room. Footnote: she had adopted 5 hamsters over the course of our 4-year sales odyssey. End footnote. And best of all, Amelia and I could head to Greece and get married without worrying about any of this. Ha! Negotiating tactics that can keep your ball in play. If it seems like you are miles away from an agreement, don't be afraid. There are many ways to bridge the gap and find a mutually agreeable situation. Always make a counteroffer. You can't get anywhere without a counter. Remind clients there's always a cost for time. Time is expensive. You can't predict the market. You can't assume there is always a better offer. Can the parties involved split the difference? Can you, as a salesperson, offer an additional incentive? Can you lower your commission? Pay for a cost associated with the deal yourself. Remember, $10 is better than no dollars. Play the fears. Talk about the wall, not buying and not selling. Remind the buyer of the risks. Not buying could mean a missed opportunity to buy something they love, get a good price, or purchase something they've been seeking for a long time. If you deal with sellers, remind them that going to the market is always risky. Emphasize to both parties that the deal can be made right now. Keep the conversation moving. To push a ball back into the wind, keep the dialogue moving, even if your client is reluctant to keep talking. Listen carefully and craft an appropriate response to your client's concerns. Spread the win around. What else can be thrown into the deal to make everyone feel like they're in a winning situation? Example, I once got two parties who were at odds to agree to a deal when the seller threw in the dining room set for free. The sellers were excited for their new adventure in Connecticut, and Gemma was working on her co-op board package. The apartment on 12th Street happened to be in a co-op, which meant that she had to be approved by a group of owners, called the board, before the deal could be official and she could close. The co-op board package is a super invasive rite of passage for most people who buy an apartment in New York City. Buyers must share their entire financial history, salary, tax returns, etc., with the other owners in the building. If you defaulted on a payment on your Victoria's Secret credit card when you were 23, they'll know about it, and if you're lucky enough to get approved, you'll share that shame with them every time you ride the elevator. There's evidence you're mean or insane, you have a yappy dog, or you play the tuba as your hobby, they don't like your face, it's Thursday, all reasons you can be denied by a New York City co-op board. But welcome to New York. The co-op board is all powerful. They can deny you for any reason they want. I got on a plane for Greece knowing Gemma was carefully putting her board package together. All was right in the world. After 4 years of working with Gemma, I was getting married as a happy salesman. July 1st, 2016. Arrive in Corfu, Greece. And now back to my big fat Greek wedding. We had rented the biggest villa in Corfu for 2 weeks, and we were planning to go crazy having fun and celebrating our love. It's Greece! We had a big welcoming party, and all of our family and friends were there. Life was great. But then, my seller of the 12th Street loft left a message saying there was a problem. Normally, one of my amazing team members would have taken care of the board package as well as any issues that came up, but this client insisted that I handle everything personally. I had promised Amelia I wouldn't work during our wedding, even though I was kind of already working since I had brought along a film crew. But I hadn't gotten this far in my career by not returning phone calls. Deals die every day, and I fix them. I called my seller. The problem? Since Gemma's parents were gifting the funds for the purchase, and since she was young and technically unemployed, the co-op wanted all her parents' financial information too, and her parents didn't want to provide it. To the co-op board, the refusal to provide this information was like a red flag about the size of a midtown skyscraper. I spent the next couple of days covertly making calls. Amelia would kill me. And going back and forth with the buyer and seller, trying to shepherd them through this process. In the meantime, wedding drama abounds. The church is double booked. The flowers are trapped in Holland. I'm trying to make sure we have the best wedding ever, but in the back of my mind is this relentless chatter about financial information and co-op board interviews. I try to make myself feel better by reminding myself that I'm attentive and empathetic, and this is just a bumpy ride to a closing, with a $270,000 commission on the line. Sirhan's secret number 20. One of the reasons you can't live or die by one sale is because you have a life. I will do absolutely everything in my power to close a deal, but I learned at my wedding that I did not want to be ironing out deals while my children were being born or on my deathbed. July 7th, 2016, 4:48 p.m., 12 minutes until my wedding. It turns out I was not receiving a call about a wedding-related disaster. It was just a real estate disaster. Damn it. Hi, Ryan. It's Gemma. So the board admitted me, but we just aren't comfortable with a building that wants so much financial information, so we don't want to buy it anymore. We're asking for our money back, thanks. And, sorry. In that split second, my big commission vanished. I also feared my seller would kill me. Instead of going on the market a month before my wedding, I had encouraged my seller to take this seamless off-market transaction. Going back to market in the dead of summer would be a disaster. This means I needed to do damage control quickly. The seller needs to know about this ASAP since they are ready to move, and this ugly development will ruin their plans. I call my seller to relay the news that their buyer is pulling out. I'm about to get married in a few minutes, but I'll be back in the city next week, and you have my word that I'll find you a new buyer. That wasn't good enough. There was yelling. A lot of it. I tried to explain that the co-op board scared the buyers, and that even though I did everything I could to keep the deal alive, I couldn't control the buyers' feelings. But that wasn't enough. In a dying deal, the salesperson always takes the blame. They didn't want to work with me anymore. Click. Ugh. While it's frustrating that the deal died, and that it died during my wedding, I learned an incredibly important lesson. I felt awful during one of the best weeks of my life. I was supposed to feel incredible. I let my clients control my emotions because I felt indebted to them. When someone hires me to sell their home or represent them in a purchase, it's like life or death for me. I care about the trust these people have invested in me. I felt like I failed them. I worried that no one would want to sell with me again. I started to doubt my own abilities. I think every salesperson has taken a walk down this very dark path at some point. And from that moment on, I decided that dying deals were not going to kill me. I also reminded myself that the loft on 12th Street was not my only ball. When I got back from my wedding, there were still many other balls in play. I vowed at that moment to learn something from every single ball that fell flat. Instead of failing hard, I needed to fail smart. This would help me grow as a salesperson and help me prevent other balls from falling in the future. If you're thinking, oh my God, what is wrong with you? You were about to get married to a beautiful woman on a Greek island. Please know that when I got on my pirate ship, I left all my problems behind. It was an awesome wedding and a day I will never forget for all the right reasons. 6 reasons balls fall and kill your deal. Everyone drops a ball or has a deal die, and it sucks. And if you haven't, you're the first person in the known universe. The deal with Gemma was one of hundreds that I've lost during a 10-year career. And it wasn't even the biggest. I once lost a deal with a $1.2 million commission. Yeah, ouch. What I've learned is that balls fall for a lot of different reasons. But if you understand the most common deal killers, you're more likely to be able to keep your balls in the air. Don't get me wrong, losing a sale is no fun, especially when you've done everything in your power to keep it going. Sometimes I feel like an ER doctor giving CPR to a dead guy. I just want to be able to tell the family I did absolutely everything I could to save him. There really is a bright side to deals dying, though. From failure comes success. I know that sounds like bullshit, but I swear it's true. Even when you've lost money, you've gained experience. Remember 99 John? My first big building where I learned so much? I was fired from that project. At the time, I thought it was the worst day of my life. But had I not been fired, I wouldn't be where I am today. I know that doesn't help when you're trying to pay your mortgage or pay back your student loan, but there will come a time in a sale when you think, wait a minute, this is familiar. Oh, wow, I know exactly what to do. Any sale that doesn't work out is preparing you to close future sales that haven't even happened yet. Let me share with you what I've learned are the 6 reasons balls crash and die, so you can gain knowledge without experiencing my pain and suffering and keep all your balls in the air. Yeah, you're welcome. Number 1, failure to communicate. Lack of communication is the leading cause of death in sales, and any relationship, really. I keep sellers aware of what I'm doing to sell their apartment, holding open houses, advertising and marketing efforts, incoming offers, etc. When I'm trying to sell something to someone, I'm in touch every week about apartments that have just gone on the market and ones that might be right for them. Keep your customers up to date on sales, promotions, and product changes. Touch base regularly so clients know you're taking care of them. If you get fired from a deal, chances are it's because of a breakdown in your communication. If you don't talk to your spouse for a week, it doesn't matter how much you love them in silence, you are going to have problems at home. And by the way, communication is free. Number 2, you're replying, not responding. Keep the communication flowing so you can get a sense of what stage of the sale your client is facing. Excitement, frustration, fear, disappointment, acceptance, happiness, or relief. Listen to your client and address any issues carefully, clearly, and quickly, but do so with care. Most salespeople reply to their clients with standard lines they use on everyone, but the best salespeople listen to their clients and respond thoughtfully. Remember, nearly anything can be bought online today, but the advantage you have as a salesperson is empathy. The internet is not empathetic. The internet can't take a client out for a drink and say, listen, I know this process is stressful, but let's talk about it. I just want you to know I hear you and I've got your back. Don't forget to put yourself in your client's shoes from time to time. Number 3, you've set unrealistic expectations. I once got fired from a deal in the Hamptons because I was completely wrong about my availability to be physically present on a property. That was my fault for setting unrealistic expectations. And I've never made that mistake again. I'm also careful about setting realistic expectations about pricing. It's so easy to say yes to people, but it causes major problems later. I've gotten comfortable with the idea of having uncomfortable conversations. I won't agree with a client that his apartment should be priced at $12 million when I think it's more like $8 million just to get a job. If I did that, I wouldn't sell the apartment, and the client would be angry, and I promise you, he would not remember that the $12 million price tag was his idea. That scenario would end with me getting fired so he could hire a more realistic and more honest broker. Make it your policy to be upfront and honest about everything. That includes potential challenges you and your customer could encounter along the way. Number 4, you don't know your shit. When I was new to selling real estate, I had no confidence and zero experience. That's true. But I knew my shit. I couldn't lean on confidence and experience to get me through a showing or a sale, So I memorized absolutely everything I needed to know about my product. I could rattle off square footages, the year an apartment building was built, what the countertop was made of, the brand of the kitchen appliances, if dogs were allowed, how far the apartment was from the subway, the doorman's name, and how many minutes it would take to walk to get a cup of coffee. Once again, remember why a client is buying from you and, cough, not the internet. It's because you are a source of knowledge. You can't be in the middle of selling an engagement ring to someone when you realize, oh, sorry, you wanted platinum? Damn, this only comes in gold. My bad. Will your fiancé love gold? Know what you are talking about. Show your value as a salesperson. And it's easy. Just do the work. Memorize the info. Ready, set, go. Number 5, your approach is stale. Complacency is the real death of a salesman. Take a very long, hard look at yourself. Are you mindlessly and robotically going through the same pitch? Are you connecting with every single customer who walks in with the same tired line about how the cold weather sucks? Are you not feeling excited about going to work and potentially selling a ton of stuff? If any of that sounds familiar, you might need to shake up your approach. I understand what this feels like. Not too long ago, I felt like Bill Murray in the movie Groundhog Day. My life felt like it was the same every day. Wake up, exercise, go to an apartment, meeting, phone call, another apartment, and I felt stuck. Amelia came up with the perfect solution for my problem, and it turned out to be simple and, bonus, fun. When a big listing came in, I decided to swap it with another team member for a smaller listing. It forced me into a situation where I faced different challenges and was exercising a different skill set. I ended up having a great time, and it was just what I needed to get excited about sales again. If you're feeling stuck, consider working with a different kind of ball for a while. This will help you shake up your approach. You'll be surprised by the difference this can make. Number 6, you're overly focused on the money. The day my credit card was declined at the grocery store was the worst. If someone had said to me, Ryan, the reason you aren't selling anything is because you're too focused on the money, I would have punched them. This is the last advice anyone with money problems wants to hear, especially from someone who has money. I do know that if you're going into a sale with nothing else but money on your mind, it can impact the deal. For example, instead of saving a deal by cutting commission to bridge the gap, your ego gets in the way because you're so focused on the full commission, and then the deal dies and you made zero anyway. Or you push a deal too hard because you just want to wrap it up and get paid, and then you're a car salesman, and your client fires you and buys the same product with someone else. Worrying about bills, rent, the mortgage, and food is incredibly stressful, and I never want to feel that way again. It's hard, but make every attempt to shift your focus from financial issues back to the deal. Focusing on the deal and not the money can get you back on track. At the 2010 Winter Olympics, Shaun White had the gold medal in snowboarding in the bag before he even hit his final run down the halfpipe. He could have just coasted it. Instead, he crushed it. Why? Because he rode like he'd already won. Technically, he had already won, but the psychology of going into a pitch with the confidence that you've already won can produce amazing results. Ultimately, we've all been there. We've dropped balls, lost sales, and had deals fall apart. It's the worst. But I always try to remind myself that this is par for the course. If Derek Jeter struck out during a game, he wouldn't toss the bat aside and scream, "I obviously suck, I quit," and go off to live a quiet life as a peanut farmer. That would be crazy. Focusing on that one deal gone wrong, or, a few hundred dropped balls, can infect your entire career and your whole life, like a cancer. Don't let it. Deals will always die, And that's okay, especially if you have multiple balls in the air. I had a big deal die last week. It sucked. But I didn't spend the day on the sofa eating Lucky Charms out of the box and watching reruns of Saved by the Bell. How is that helpful? Yesterday, I made a huge sale. I didn't put down the phone after the deal was done and say to my team, well, that's awesome. See you guys later. I'm going to take the afternoon off to watch Narcos on Netflix and eat nachos. I keep at it, tend to my other balls, and focus on the bigger picture, the one where I have the best month of sales ever. Sirhan's secret number 21. When I don't get a piece of business, I want to know why. Why not me? I'm awesome. The truth is, there are some factors you just can't control, and you shouldn't waste your energy obsessing over them. Move on and go for other balls. If you ever feel like quitting, please listen first. Sales is the hardest job there is. In some jobs, there's no safety net, like a regular paycheck or a boss to direct you. There's no guarantee that a big sale will actually go through. Salespeople have the most amazing highs, but the lows are painful. Sales can be exhausting, frustrating, and disappointing at times. But if you find yourself standing on the precipice, please consider the following first. Have you set the bar way too high? Lots of people fail at sales because they have insane expectations. I'm all for encouraging big goals, but make sure you're making reasonable goals. Don't think you're failing because you've raised the bar too high for yourself. Recalibrate your goals if necessary. If you're just learning to ski, you don't go down the highest mountain first because you'll probably die. You start with the bunny hill, then take on the medium hill. And when you've nailed those, you can think about hitting the black diamond. Once you've gained the skills and experience to ski down it without breaking your neck. And remember, if you're at the bottom, fine. Up is the only available direction. Remember, I'm the guy who made just over $9,000 my first year in sales only 10 years ago. Is inaction stressing you out? Remember your why. Not taking action can make you feel terrible. If you're in a sales slump, you can't wake up thinking, oh, I can feel it. Today's the day everything will turn around. That is very wishful thinking. The only thing that can change your situation is you. Do you love the product you're selling? Your why is like a powerful vitamin pill. It provides the extra boost of energy you need to take control and move forward. When is the last time you gave yourself a reward? You've had a bunch of deals die? You're in a slump? It may sound counterintuitive, but I think the best thing to do right now is to reward yourself. I'm not saying you should necessarily buy a luxury car, but reward yourself with something that will boost your spirits and your confidence. Buy a new suit or handbag so you feel great at your next pitch meeting. It doesn't have to be something big. A crazy purple tie catches your eye? Get it! And know you look fantastic the next time you meet with a potential client. In 2014, I had a really slow month, so I bought my first apartment. My budget was about $1.5 million, but I spent almost $4 million on a penthouse in West Soho. It was the most terrifying thing I'd ever done in my life. But it catapulted my sales for the rest of the year because it set a new wall for me. I had bought it, now I had to pay for it, or I was dead. Sirhan's secret number 22. Remember that there is always an action you can take. There's always something you can do right now to change the outcome of your career. There is always something you can do. Maybe it's focusing on different balls, changing up your pitch, or shifting your energy from the money back to the deal. Call up someone who didn't hire you and politely ask for feedback. Use that information to improve and refine your skills. Try something, anything. And in the end, where does it get you tomorrow if you quit today? Nowhere. Face your challenges head on, and chances are you'll end up somewhere really amazing. when you face your biggest failure every day. The Brooklyn house on Ocean Parkway was incredible, and the asking price was a whopping $14 million. In 2012, this was my biggest ball to date. It was the first listing I had at this price point, and I thought it would change my entire life. If I sold this, it would lead to more giant listings. I could hire more team members, move into a bigger apartment, and maybe lease a cool car. It would be a massive commission check and a huge step forward in my career. The house was in the Syrian Sephardic community in Sheepshead Bay, Brooklyn. It was 10,000 square feet with 5 bedrooms. The dining room table was so long you could have all of Brooklyn over for Shabbos dinner. Easily. The 3 chandeliers that sparkled above it were $300,000 a piece. The house had dome skylights with motorized shades, an elevator, and special heated sidewalks to melt any snow that dared land there. I put so much time, money, and effort into selling this house, and a year went by without getting an offer. Not a single one. For a year, I spent most of my time and energy on one very big ball. I was hyper-focused. I wasn't looking at the big picture or thinking about what would happen if that giant $14 million ball fell flat, which it did. I still love the challenge of selling something big, but that experience taught me how important it is to play with balls of all different shapes and sizes. I confront this failure every single day. I have a nostalgia wall in my office. I framed a lot of articles about myself and my business that I'm proud of. Big deals and awards we've won. But right in the middle of it all is an article that reminds me about my biggest failure ever. The headline in the New York Daily News reads, $14 million inside Brooklyn's most expensive home. The article is all about that crazy house, and at the bottom is my smug, smiling, oblivious face. I framed it and hung it in my office as a reminder that no matter how much success I have, I will always fail. But I will fail smarter. I won't spend as much energy on one ball as I did with that house in 2012. I will be relentless in my efforts to get as many balls up as possible. Now I know full well that there's likely more failure to come, because the only way to avoid failure altogether is to do nothing at all. And that's just not an option. The Serhant Way. Balls will always fall. That's okay. Sometimes there's nothing you can do, but incorporate these simple techniques into your sales practice to maximize your chances of keeping them up in the air. Negotiating tactics to help keep your ball in play. Bridge the gap, play the fears. If you're dropping a lot of balls, you need to do a self-check. Are any of the following an issue? Common reasons balls get dropped. 1. Failure to communicate. 2. You're replying, not responding. 3. You've set unrealistic expectations. 4. You don't know your shit. 5. Your approach is stale. 6. You're overly focused on the money. Just don't quit. But in case you're thinking about it, but don't, when you feel like quitting, ask yourself, are you setting reasonable expectations? Is inaction stressing you out? Remember your why. When is the last time you gave yourself a reward? Practice your craft. It's human nature, usually, to want to reply instantly when someone speaks to you. But in sales, how you respond, note I said respond, not reply, to a customer can make the difference between closing a deal or losing a customer. It takes practice to do this. It requires you to fight your natural urge to talk. If this is a problem you struggle with, here are 2 exercises that can help you. 1. Just seriously say nothing for 20 minutes. Stay silent. Do you have any idea how difficult this is? I mean, I've never done it myself, but I imagine it would be really hard. Joking aside, this exercise can really help you think before you speak so that you can respond to clients in a thoughtful manner. 2. Sell something silently. Try selling anything, your car, your dog, your husband, to a friend. You can only use facial expressions and hand gestures to express why this purchase should be made. It's hard.